Welcome back to Post Projects, and finally back to Project 818 SRX. Let's briefly go over what I have left to do on the car. Just a couple things. So we're going to start today by mounting the wing, and we're going to have to modify this deck lid because I won't be bolting it to the deck lid. I'll get into that in a second. And before I remove the body, I've got a transmission cooler that I want to mount somewhere on the back, so I kind of want to get that position sorted out before I remove any bodywork, and I'll probably just tack it in place and finish welding later. Then I'm going to remove the body and clean it. It's covered in oil. There's not really much I want to do in modification wise. I kind of want to tweak on the door panels, but otherwise everything can come off and get wrapped. So that's down there. Yeah, so we'll take the body off and clean it, and then because of the oil line that burst on my way for inspection, I have no faith in this style oil lines at all. So I've ordered all new oil lines, all new fittings. It's a different style of fitting, higher pressure oil line. So I'm just going to redo the oil lines. Also, I noticed access to a lot of the fittings was kind of terrible. I didn't think about that stuff when I made the oil lines, so I'll be moving a few things like my my little thermostat that opens up, that goes to the coolers. Okay, because I did run it at low oil pressure, what I'll do is, right now the system is sealed, so before I take off the oil lines, I'll warm it up, do a compression test, and see where we're at. We've got numbers from the beginning of last year, and see if I've lost anything. I know a rebuild's in my future. However, time-wise, if I start a rebuild now with all the other things I have to do, I might not get a lot of seat time in it this summer. I'm also entertaining the idea of just buying another motor, getting that rebuilt, and then there's no downtime. I can just continue with the car as it is, and when the other motor's ready, swap them out. So check the compression, then I'll drain the oil. I also bought a oil filter cutter, and we'll just look for any bearing material from running it in low pressure. And that'll help decide whether or not, the urgency of a possible rebuild. Gonna build a new fuel tank for it. I'll get into all the details of that later. It's gonna be really sweet trick and solve any fuel slosh issues. Yeah, I've got all new, I think I've talked about these before. I've got all new injectors. I got some ID 2000s, some ID, like Injector Dynamics 1050s. I've got full function engineering fuel rails. I've got an APR pressure regulator, inline fuel filter. So all those things need to go in. And everything except for the ID 2000s is E85 or ethanol compliant. So at some point I may want to switch, and then I would just have to swap out my ID 2000s. But I'd already purchased them, and the plan isn't to switch anytime soon. New shifter. While I did get the factory 5 shifter to work, and I can get all gears, it is garbage. Most of that is because the lines go around the front. Factory 5 does offer a billet one, but I believe the cables still go around the front. Guys say it is a little better, but still shit. I've got the nice linkage in the back, which helps, from 0 Decimal Motorsports. They also have a new shifter out, just not going to work because I've lowered my center console, and it's just going to sit too low. The other option is going to the K-tuned. I think I'm just going to buy the K-tuned Rev 2 and modify as needed to fit. I mean, if I got to switch the direction of the cable rotation with just by adding a swivel, on the grand scheme of things, I don't think that'll be too hard. And the K-tune shifters just look sweet, so it'll be a nice focal piece for an otherwise bland interior. Steering column, I hate that gap, so, and I'm just not fussy about my steering wheel, and I want a bigger steering wheel. That's a 300 mil. My RX-8 is a 350 mil, so I'm going to swap out to a 350 deep dish, and then collapse that steering column to get rid of that little gap between the the plastic in the dash. Wrap the body. Still haven't decided on the color. Gonna decide soon. Thinking dark blue or dark gray. Just not sure. Need to look at some samples. What else we got? Oh yeah, I got an annoying exhaust leak, and I did change out the gasket, and I put a bunch of that orange RTV stuff trying to seal it, but I still got an exhaust leak. So I think while I made an attempt, clearly I didn't do a good enough job of resurfacing my flange. It must have warped when I'm welding, and it's just not sitting flat. So I'm going to have to take the turbo manifold off. I did buy a belt sander, so I can just keep the turbo attached, take the whole assembly out, you know, resurface it, and just put it back in. All my louvers, since I'm powder coating the body, I've got a lot of things to powder coat I've just been putting off. So I'm going to do all the louvers. I got to install a louver here and on the hood, get all of them powder coated, and all the other little odds and ends powder coated that I've been wanting to do. And the front inner fenders, I did finish the passenger side, I didn't finish the driver side, and then I realized my access to my oil coolers is just terrible. So I need to kind of redesign that so that if I need to get to my oil coolers to block them off. I'm also going to make a line, a nice permanent line, so that I can bypass the oil coolers should I have an issue like this in the future. And I'll probably make it long enough that I can bypass all the lines going to the front and just run from the front cover to where the oil filter is. Should I just need to get home somewhere, I can. I do have a temp sensor, so I could do that cautiously should I have to, because that kind of sucked when that happened. And that's the plan. Just a few things. This would probably be a good place for a commercial, you know. Hey, metal supermarkets, right? No, I'm obviously not at that level with the channel, but I would appreciate a like, a subscribe, maybe ring that bell so you know in 6 months that I've got a new video out and you remember who I am.